Okay, we're back with episode 6, I want to say, of our playthrough through AI, the Somnium Files, Nirvana Initiative. Last time, we were just about to go into Amami's sink again um,
Mhm.
because she's hiding some secrets and she's not telling us what's going on. Um,
Yes.
yeah.
There's nothing new with her. This is the whole thing. She's been doing this whole game.
Mhm.
Uh, but it's looking bad for Amame here. It's looking a lot like she has killed, or at least tried to cover up the killing of one or more people. So that's a new low for her.
Yeah. I know that last week you were sounded like you were disappointed in the way that you thought it was going. Uh, were you disappointed with the reveal here?
Um, I guess I was just a little bit confused because it seems like um is part of the plan all along, almost, for her to do this. Like she doesn't possess any like really she's interested in game shows, and she's kind of interested in occult things in general. But aside from maybe her relationship with Gen, there doesn't seem to be anything like too exceptional about her, particularly to like be able to take down terror, and Nikes into the bargain. So it seems like they're kind of allowing her to do this at the very least, or maybe at the like they're maybe even using her to do this for some reason. Um, so I don't know.
Yeah,
That was the sense I got. It could have been anybody really. Like why was it Amame? Not really sure.
yeah. So I mean, you're right. She's very just kind of unspectacular, right? Like she doesn't. Her little brother has been genetically modified for eternal youth.
Oh yeah.
She's hanging out with Gen, who's been genetically modified. There's Mizuki, who's been genetically modified, and yet Amame is the one who just kind of seems like wrong place, wrong time. Um,
Yeah.
and I guess to take a step back, the her somnium takes place at, I forget what the bar is that she's like the mermaid at.
Yeah. Yeah. The
And
sunfish pocket.
yes, and so the entire time she's just trying to hide uh, something because she's lying about stuff that's going on, and it is slowly revealed to us that she, um, well, I guess when she came across Terror at the Dividus Studios,
Mhm.
um, she saw Terror there. That's the first time, and Terror became like obsessed with her afterwards, and said that she's his destiny.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's right. He wrote it in the diary.
yeah, and so then at a certain, he invites her down to his like secret lair, um,
Mhm.
and at that point in time, Amami's like, "Why the hell did you invite me here? Like, you killed my dad. Like, I'm not going to forgive you. Like, what the hell is going on?" Um,
Mhm.
and it seems to me like, yeah, kind of back to what you said. She's almost like a pawn in Nice's game, right? Because she
Mhm.
she ends up killing Terror, um, and yeah, so she kills Terror, um, and Tokiko was observing everything, and she basically
Mhm.
blackmailed her into kind of setting into motion the events of the present. So the six, what in the game is the 6 years in the future, or what
Yeah.
you thought was the Mizuki route. Um,
Yes.
yeah, no, you're right, and it's interesting um, because in her somnium, you get she's very regretful, or maybe not even regretful, but she questions a lot of like the choices that she's made in her
Mhm.
life to like lead her to this point.
Right. Yeah, the Somnium starts off like a normal one, sort
Yeah,
of,
yeah,
but then it adds in like the evidence piecing together mechanic, I guess you could say, that we saw from time to time. It wasn't used much in this game, I want to say. It was more in the previous one.
yeah.
Um,
It was very. I don't know if you've ever played like Ace Attorney or those games,
mhm.
or even like Danganronpa. You kind of have like a trial section where it's like you have to present evidence
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
to show like the contradictions or to put the kind of connect the dots and like how you know that she's like telling a lie or to get her to tell the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it again, it's like it's highly conscious. I want to say like this is a very conscious somnium, very logical somnium. In that there's all this evidence scattered around. Your job is to bring it to her, face it, make her face it, and then it gradually breaks down her, will to conceal the truth, basically. Um, Finally, uh, you push her to this point where she kind of, yeah, like you said, she walks through like a series of choice points in her life where it has you do it in this form of like the game show again, where you like pick the right answer, and there's only two options each time.
Mhm.
I don't think I got any of these wrong. I don't know if it like automatically ends the game if you do, and you just have to redo it. Like I don't know. Anyway, you can basically like follow her trail or track or traces. Like the things that she did that she feels like now in hindsight. If she had done something differently, then she could have averted this whole stuff. But so it's
Yeah.
weird. It's like she is the exact person who had to do this, from her point of view in the story because of this, series of events. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting. So I think the first decision, well, let me take a step back. So if you say the wrong answer, I think it just like there's like some like dialogue about it kind of like being the wrong answer, and then like you get to
Mm.
choose again, and it's four options, and they're all the correct answer. Um, so like
Okay.
you basically have to go through it. I don't know. Maybe you could run out of like your eyeballs at that point, and or somnium time.
Oh,
So maybe
true.
so you
Yeah,
might
that
have
does
to like
take time.
restart. But yeah, that's the only penalty I think. But yeah, so the first choice is when her dad and her mom got divorced.
Oh, yeah.
Komeji was like, "You got to choose. Like, are you going to live with your mom or with your dad?" Um, and you choose your mom, right? And then that kind of made her kind of fall or lose touch with her dad, not be as close with her dad,
Mm.
um, which kind of affected them later. Another decision that she made was to um, go work
Hmm.
at
Make
the
money.
yeah make money and lie. Right, so I think the
Oh,
question was
yeah.
like, tell the truth and not make money, or lie and make money, or it was to tell the truth and be poor, or lie and make money. Um,
Yeah.
uh, and part of that, she was motivated primarily by like wanting to help take care of Shoma. Their
Hmm.
family was having money problems, and then I think the last one was, well, no, there's two. So one was,
There's a few
I
more. Yeah.
yeah, Iris calls. Um,
Oh, yeah. She's like very distraught after the body drops in during the game show. Yeah. Yeah.
yes, and so you choose to go and help Iris, and that's kind of like when your dad uh, need your help too. So like you chose your best friend and blah 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 blah. And then at the end you choose to kill Uru um, back down in his lair. So those were kind of the choices that she made that led her to this endpoint.
Yeah. It's a series of like locked, mental locks, but it's very linear. So it's funny how it proposes it in the form of like, if I could have done something different, but the end result is no, there's four of the same choice here. You have to do this one thing. It's really a kind of a funny way to end this game, which, toyed with the thing about the branching storylines, but ended up braiding them together in a kind of, you know, trippy way. So I'm not quite sure what to make of it. She is a strange character to have kind of come forward at this point to represent, the power of choice and love and all this stuff that we like it in our games, but it's pretty like abrupt here how this like then shifts into, oh, but we also have to go and stop the rocket from launching. So
Well,
off
that's
we go.
yeah. That's kind of how like we ended our episode last week, right? We're talking about all this stuff, and
Yeah.
it's like, wait, there's still like this whole pandemic that or whatever that's they're trying to unleash on the
Right.
world for TC Purge. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so right, so we get out of there. Fine, we discover Amame uh, killed Terror. Um, it seems
Moved the
like
body around at Tokiko's urging and Tokiko killed herself, right? So
yes,
that's still kind of like, what?
yeah,
It's not too surprising, I guess, but then so like why is it so important that the bodies be placed in such a way that et cetera? So like there's still more to this plan that's unclear right now. So,
yes. Very conveniently, the bodies were placed in such a way. Yeah, she. So I think Tokiko's talking about the chakras and how it's a singular point, and even if you cut them up, like they're still connected
mhm.
by an invisible thread, which goes back to even like the original Killing in the game show, where there was like that invisible thread that was kind of
Oh
uh,
yeah.
holding the body
Uh,
up at one point in time. Um, yeah, so they were placed in it, and the bodies created a giant X on the map, and we end up going back to the stadium.
oh, the stadium where it all started.
Yeah.
Well, not the game show, but aside from that, just about how it
Yes.
all started.
Yes. Yes. So we're back to where it all began, um, and it goes kind of completely off the rails in a good way. Like
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
just so over the top, right? Like you.
My favorite part was when the Gatling gun comes out and they're like running, they're driving around, shooting the Gatling gun. It's awesome. Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah.
hilarious.
Well, my favorite part is like yeah. So first
Uh,
off, it's the two Mizukis, or Mizuki and BB and Date. They first get there.
mhm.
Um, and there's like, the three groups of people that we fought in the past: the spacesuit people, the like Foot Clan rejects. Um, and then what were the other ones? They were also rejects.
Also like the American gangsters, yeah, like the hired assassins.
Yeah, so you're fighting them, um, and you seem to be doing okay, but then you start to kind of like lose the fight. There's a struggle. It's going the other way. All the meanwhile, there's this giant ballistic missile that's just was stored underneath the stadium. Um, that is just like, and it's protected by this electromagnetic force field.
Yep.
And just when it looks like the our protagonists are going to lose and be overtaken, um, that's when the like Hummer army truck driven by Ota with Iris in the front seat, and you have like Kizzy, Moma, Gen, um,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
and
Lion is there.
yeah,
They're all there. The
yep.
crew's all there.
Yep, yep. And like you said, Kizzy has this like Gatling gun, and even Moma, like, and who was one of them was like, "Wait, where the hell did you get this Gatling gun?" And it's like,
Yeah.
"Who cares? Like, let's shoot, motherfucker!" Uh,
Yes.
and she just like goes crazy. And I just like love the fact that it's like, yeah, that where did the hell did they get a Gatling gun? And they just like don't explain it, right? They're just like,
No.
just whatever, just enjoy the ride. Who cares?
Everything is fine. Yeah, there's also like the invisibility cloaking along with the voice chain thing, which comes back to here too. Like it's another mechanic that like really isn't used other than in these fight scenes, and just for laughs. Yeah, all the fighters have their invisibility on, and so Mizuki's eye gets swapped with someone else for some reason. So she's the only one who doesn't have the ability to see the heat signals coming off of everyone. So then she's like very much in a bind.
Yes.
Um, and then yeah, then you're saved once, and then you're saved again as she's like getting shot.
Hmm.
Ryuki comes in out of nowhere.
Hmm.
Um, he's
Our
gonna
hero
like
of
redeem
justice.
himself. Yes, yes. So thank goodness for him. Then he gets shot. Like seems to be dying. Pretty
Yeah,
abrupt, like I said. It's just like out of nowhere. Okay,
yeah.
this is happening.
And I think it's worth mentioning that he got shot trying to protect Date. He kind of like dives to
Yes.
protect Date, um,
True. True.
and he gets. It looks like he's dying, and Date and him share some words, and it's like, oh, the hero of justice can't die. That's not how this is supposed to go. And
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and
Right.
then Ryuki's just useless. I guess he dies.
Well, that's what it looks like. And so like that leaves like some unexplained like super powered foot soldier person who Mizuki fights one on one, right?
Yes.
And that's a pretty close battle, but you push your buttons just right and you take him down. Uh so probably like genetically engineered, I guess, but whatever. Not important. The rocket takes off. So all of this was for nothing. Like it's still gonna hit everyone with TC purge. Um, oh, and Shoma's there with all the thermite that he had been cooking up. Because their plan is to like burn off the TC purge. That's the only way they can prevent it spreading. So that at that point, BB comes in on her rocket booster scooter, um, launches after the rocket, somehow almost catches up to it, but not quite,
Hmm.
and has the thermite like strapped to her back. So it looks like she's gonna do like like the heroic suicide thing, but then like runs out of gas
Yeah.
and she's just like hanging in midair. But then Mizuki on her rocket powered scooter comes flying past, grabs the thermite, which apparently weighs nothing because it doesn't affect her flight in the slightest. Just like grabs it as she's going by and continues flying towards the thing. You tap A really fast, and this you know allows you to toss the bomb close enough that Shoma can detonate it, just in the nick of time. And they both like parachute back down on BB's parachute bike. So everyone's fine except for Ryuki. Don't worry about him though.
Yeah.
Like let's just not talk about him.
Well, he kind of
Uh,
sucked anyway.
he was very much a Raiden to your Solid Snake, or your
Yes.
yeah. That's the analogy I want to use. Yeah, there we
Oh,
go.
that's a good one. Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. At first, I thought you were like when you said the Raiden. I was like Mortal Kombat, like God of Thunder
Oh, that's
or God
pretty
of
close
Lightning.
to. I mean, there's a lot of combat in this game. Very little of it is mortal, right? And like hardly anyone actually dies in the fights because they're always rubber bullets and non-lethal strikes and
Yes.
uh
By the way,
I don't know.
the Gatling gun also had rubber bullets. In case anyone
That's
thought
right.
that Kizzy was like committing mass murder. No, 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 no. She was. Apparently, they have rubber bullet Gatling guns.
Yeah. Yeah, all of this is explained as you like go around talking to everybody in the aftermath of saving the world here. Um it's a weird kind of like epilogue chapter, I guess, that happens where the the figure of terror that was speaking from the video stream like gradually fades out, and Tokiko appears briefly, and then that also fades out, and it's like behold true humanity or something. So it's again, is this actually what their plan was supposed to do, to bring all these misfits together and represent you know teamwork and compassion for everybody, maybe, but it doesn't seem like we're gonna figure that out without doing some additional sleuthing here. So,
Yeah, and I
yeah.
think another thing worth mentioning is that Tokikos has like planned successful, right?
Mhm,
And
mhm,
it's like immediately after the bomb is like exploded. So it's weird. Like she knew exactly when that was going to happen, or something was triggered, or so there's someone else in the background who like changed it. Um, but yes, it does seem like this was a very convoluted plan um,
mhm.
in order for like to achieve moksha.
The achieving of the end of the simulation, right? Which
Hmm.
in a way makes sense because it is kind of the end of the game.
Hmm.
So like literally that's sort of true.
Yes.
Um, there is the sense that like, by pursuing Chikara, we we do get TC purge and a lot of messed up experimentation happens, but they also do produce like really positive things, like the eternal youth of Shoma, and the ability to take care of tumors and maybe heart problems, whatever is going on with Big Sis, right? Like maybe that is a positive that comes out of this whole thing. So it's possible that this was the plan, like it worked just right. And everyone in it was a pawn except possibly Tokiko, and she's the only one who really knows the plan. But yeah, it seems like a stretch.
Um, yeah. So she's very uh, spoiler, and if anyone's listening to this and you haven't played 999, uh, it goes back to kind of what Akane did in that, right? Where it's like these like
Yeah.
very convoluted plans just to achieve like one little thing. But yeah, I think th- this game poses a lot of morally difficult or ambiguous questions, right? Do the ends justify, like, at what point do the ends justify the means? Um,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
there usually is it's a gray area, right? Like you said, like TC Purge, that's bad, but like research also produced um, life-saving medical procedures or whatever. Um,
Hmm.
so, even with that kind of stuff, it's bad. So, did we ever learn if Terror like had his tumors like taken care of? I assume that's they were able to do that with the genetics. Right.
Well, they kind of just harvested all of the necessary organs from Uru, right?
Yes.
And so that I guess that's a way. I mean, but I would wonder then how does Uru survive if all of his organs are gone? They must have had some level of life support going for him, and he seems, pretty able to move around and accomplish various things in his half-organed body. So yeah, I don't know exactly what the medical process there entails, but it seems pretty sophisticated.
Yeah, I always thought that they just like swapped the organs, so he had like the tumor riddled organs in
Ah,
him, which
possibly.
I then have a question whether like he knew he was going to be dying soon anyway and like sacrificed
Uh-huh.
himself. And
Uh-huh.
and they do talk about how like death is the salvation um, for
Mhm.
these people like trying to reach moksha. So um, and it really does seem like he baited Amame to like kill him, right? He's like laughing in her
Mhm.
face. He obviously like in what world does like it make sense that he would invite her there if it wasn't for her to like kill him?
It's yeah. That makes sense to me. Yeah. Yeah, that's the sense in which she's his destiny,
Right.
right? Like she is his fate.
Yes.
Uh, mm,
But
poor Uru.
yeah, well, it's unfortunate, I guess. Very creepy
Mhm.
model. I was watching a Let's Play earlier today, and just the half black head is just so weird. Um,
It is. Yes. I also like Amame's, murder weapon here. It's like she just grabs the nearest wrench
mhm.
and hits him and then drags his like unconscious body a room over, up a lot of stairs also, so good for her. Um, all the way to the slicing thing and then slices him with it. Yeah,
Yes,
pretty good.
and she even mentioned that she wanted to like inflict the same type of suffering that
Yeah.
and pain that he had inflicted on her father,
Hmm.
which is fair enough, and I guess in a sense makes Amame a less sympathetic character. It's one thing to like kill the person, but then when you're
For
trying,
revenge, yeah.
yeah, like And speaking of, she does go to jail for the
Hmm.
murder of
Hmm.
Terror,
Yeah, a
which
little surprising.
I think what they said like 6 months or something like that. She was doing like a very light sentence for
Hmm.
murder, but at the same time, I think even Gen mentions it when you're talking. It's like, yeah, like I think she did a good thing. She got rid of this guy who's like killing everyone and trying to detonate a bomb um, that was going to like unleash a pandemic on the world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think most of the people you talk to are very like on Team Amame on this one. And
Yeah,
I think it's only like Aiba or maybe Tama, I forget, who says something to this end of like, I feel kind of bad for Uru. Um,
yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah, but
yeah. Uru was screwed from the beginning, right? I mean, he lost the genetic lottery by having the same uh, or similar genes to Chikara and Tokika's kid.
Mhm, mm. Hmm. So Boss has you go around gathering clues from everybody, and it's, you know, portrayed as if you're going to need to do some multiplying, some x again with them,
Yeah.
and it's like horizontal and vertical and light and dark and male and female, so a bunch of these kind of complementary pairs of things. But this is one that you don't actually have to, again, you don't have to do anything other than just go through all of the steps, and you can do it in any order. And finally you wind up going to Nike's Japan office because the spirit of the milky balls tells you to. And there's another Tokiko sighting
Hmm.
in the form of the the Matrix Tokiko, and she reveals the nil number um, to the Freyer, the
Hmm.
one, not Ryuki, definitely not Mizuki, but the one who's listening, the people listening out there. That's us. The player is the Freyer. We get the nil number, and then if you follow the steps and you multiply the stuff, you get the coordinates again of the stadium, um, where a musical number, goes on while the credits roll, and it's pretty cool. It's an extended version of the "Girl Eating Donuts" song,
Yeah.
that we're familiar with now with Kazuna.
Yes.
Uh,
No, it was a great ending. Like, and
yeah,
I think anyone who played the first game was expecting a similar ending. Um,
it's the only way the game can end. Yes,
yeah, of course. Although you still have to go put the nailed number in at a different point in the game, so I guess technically it's not over.
that's right.
So
Uh,
I'm sorry, were you saying something?
no, no, I was just gonna applaud the team for following through. Um, they they were able to top, maybe not top, but at least get pretty close to the Rainbow Arrow song from the first game. It was an exciting uh, spin on that formula. I liked it.
Yeah, same here. I really enjoyed it. So one thing I wanted to mention, and I guess going back to poor Uru, um,
Mm.
I had texted you last week to discuss whether he basically was like like an incel, right? Like on
Mhm.
the computer all day, like never goes outside, becomes obsessed with like a girl um, to a creepy extent. Uh, but I think another thing worth, if I'm correct, isn't Uru also Iris's half brother?
Oh, because of Sosejima.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I kind of forgot about that part.
So there's like
Ew, gross.
so it's again, it's like kind of like the opposites though, right? You have like Iris, who's this
Mhm.
like pop sensation that's on the internet and all this stuff, has a very like bubbly personality, versus Uru, who um, is the opposite, right? He spends his time on the internet, and he's evil.
Yeah, and really gross.
Yes. Yeah.
But Sosejima is the worst. He is actually the worst. And I don't fully understand how no consequences have fallen him, but again, it goes back to this sort of like shady connection between politics and the police. After all, you work for the government, so I guess they can't really do anything to him. I don't know. Boss remains very suspicious, even
Yes.
though turns out she wasn't involved here.
Yeah. Well, I guess is he ever going to get his comeuppance? And do you think that they laid the foundation for a third game in the series?
A couple of possibilities here come to mind. Like they do talk an awful lot towards the end there about how BB and Lion used to be like partners in crime, and they would like make MoMA lots of money by stealing stuff, and then she was kind of like a Robin Hood type figure. She would give all her money to the orphanages. So there's that element of it. There's so that's like a past, timeline in the making, and then there's of course, yeah, Sosajima's like still on the run, and whatever's going on with that is will remain, um, yeah, like a loose end here. So
Yeah.
yeah, if they want to, they could easily make another game.
Yeah. And I guess that brings me to my next point. Another question well, let's just did you enjoy the game?
Overall, it was great. I
Okay.
think it was hilarious. Um, the inclusion of, you know, pieces that were not explained in the first game and then sort of explained here, but like in a funny way that didn't really impact anything. It was a pretty light touch, I feel like they used here to get that across. And then the huge, reveal of the DNA style storyline is really, really cool. It's a really good way to, you know, sneak up behind the player and kind of pull the wool over your eyes a little bit there. Um, and they don't make a big deal about the Freyr, like with just little hints here and there, I guess. So I still need to see what happens when I go back and talk to Tokiko um, in my true persona, right? And maybe there'll be more, but yeah, it was great.
Yeah, not to spoil anything, but there's really not like a ton that happens
Okay.
there. Um, but what was I going to say? I had a thought. A Freyr. Da, 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 da. I had a thought.
Who knows?
Yeah, did you like it better than the first game?
I think I like the humor and the funny stuff more so than like the darkness and the broodingness of the first game.
Mhm.
Um, I think the story in the first game and the characters are a little bit more like intriguing. We have Date here like laying on the couch meowing at the very end.
Mhm.
Um, so you're not going to get like a profound level of meaning out of this one as much as it does talk about Nirvana and Moksha and all this stuff. Um, and I guess maybe you don't get that from the first game either, but it certainly like tries a little harder in the first game to teach you something maybe.
Yeah, I feel like although they obviously have the same world,
Mm.
just like very different feels. Kind of like how
Hmm.
Alien and Aliens are just like Alien is this like claustrophobic thriller,
Hmm.
and then Aliens is this war against the aliens, and it's like the military going after them, and it's just like over the top violence. And while they're both like good and they're both in their own respect, like they're kind of like different genres.
Mm. Yeah, that's a good way to. Yeah, this one's almost like a satire of the first game.
Yes, and like visual novels in general.
And yeah, yeah, Danganronpa, Pokemon. A lot of games get made fun of here, which
Yeah.
is good. It's good. Well deserved. Mm.
Um, so, do you think that the game was hampered in any way by making it so that you did not have to play the first game to be able to play this game?
Uh, so I don't know that it. I think they would have had to do some kind of storyline around the characters from the first game for that to work, right? Like the Sosajima. They could have brought in the Chikara stuff, the genetic manipulating, talk about Mizuki and all this and that. Um, but I think it would have really limited the kind of direction that the plot was going to go. So this one allows it to stay a lot more open-ended, I guess, and it lets the series kind of continue in a more open-ended way too. Um, yeah, it makes it, more like an episode rather than like a true sequel. Um, yeah, it seems like a smart move on their part. I don't think it really hampered it at all.
Yeah,
But
the reason I mentioned that is that seems to be one of the bigger criticisms that I've seen online when I was
hmm
like looking at reviews and stuff like that. Um, they thought that it was very limiting.
hmm
I'm
hmm
not sure that they really even articulated why it was
no, to
limiting.
me it's quite the contrary.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah. And then, so you mentioned this before, but you thought that the twist was well done and like worth it because that's the other biggest
Hmm.
complaint that I've seen on this game. It's like, well, uh, the twist like doesn't affect the characters in any way. It's just like it just tricked the player.
Mm,
Um, and I think that's kind of the point.
yeah, it sure seemed that way.
It
Uh,
was Uchikoshi basically preying on the
yeah, yeah.
like the player and just kind of like I, trying to think of the word like basically like inferences, or it's like, oh, we discovered the first body that was 6 years in the past, and then we discovered it like in the present, and then like when you find the other bodies, you just like assume that they're 6 years apart again. It's like he starts a pattern, but then it's like it leads you down the wrong road.
Yes. Yes. Uh, and it definitely impacts the characters a lot less. Um, but yeah, it is much more about the assumptions the player is making as you're jumping from character to character and timeline to timeline. You're sort of like, I don't know, tricked into feeling like you know what's going on when really there's a whole trap being sprung on you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I liked it a lot. I think it's
yeah.
great.
So I'm assuming you haven't like gone back and played some parts of the game to see if the twist like actually does hold up.
No, I haven't looked into it that closely.
All right, so you're just gonna
Um,
you're just gonna trust that it does.
but yeah, I am okay if it doesn't too, I guess. Like I wouldn't feel like that would break anything. 'Cause I feel like they could just, I feel like they went through and just sort of put a bunch of dialogue in that just like lightly papered over a lot of stuff, you know. They just kind of wave their hands and invent technology as necessary.
Hmm.
Is kind of what it seems like. So yeah, I don't know. If they missed a spot, uh, I'm not gonna ever catch it or care. So, but have you like tried to dig into that a little bit?
Yeah, so I have, and it's interesting. One such instance was it when you discover Chikara's body the second time.
Okay.
Yes, when
And the
you
balloons are about to start?
at the park, you're
Yeah.
like talking to Ryuki there, and he's like, "Oh, I can't believe like what happened 6 years ago." Blah blah blah. Anyway, and so it's like you think that he's talking about finding Chikara's body 6 years ago,
Right.
um,
Right.
which would make you in the present, but he was actually talking about his brother dying. Um, so
Ah.
he's like, "Oh, I can't believe that it was like it's already been 6 years since the event happened." Anyway, like I found Chikara's body at the school,
Oh, wow.
so it's
That
like
is silly.
it's very subtle.
Yeah.
And I think the inclusion of the VR sections was like kind of genius because it allowed them to investigate things in the past, but like
Mhm. Mhm.
the player obviously thought, right, so, or that they were in the previous timeline, like when Ryuki was investigating the studio after
Mhm.
they discover Andy's body there.
Right.
So
Yeah,
it's
that's weird.
yeah, so it's like I thought it was like the more I thought about it, the more like genius I thought it was. It's like, wow, yeah, they did a really good job of like allowing you to kind of like jump around and
Yeah.
investigate things in the past while while you're in the present.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, the investigating is, I don't know, like I said, there's very little actual like evidence piecing together that you have to do.
Mhm,
Um, you can pretty much just click around and do whatever you need to. So I felt like this game was less challenging in a way than the first game as well. It was more accessible,
mhm.
um, both in terms of the mood, and then in terms of like the gameplay too. So which I don't mind. You know, I don't need a outrageous challenge all the time.
Uh, but the quick time events seem to be harder in this game.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when you're on that scooter and you have to tap A, like I was very afraid that I wasn't going to be able to make it in time.
There is a certain amount of quick time overkill in this game. That was a very small part of the first game, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
I don't know why
think
they did that. I don't
yeah,
know why they doubled down on that so much.
going back to whether they could do something in the next game, like in the very beginning of the game, Ryuki dodges those bullets, so it almost seems like he also has like superhuman abilities.
Mm, mhm,
And Date, he seems very close. Again, I think Date or Ryuki might be a clone of Date. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because like I thought it was really weird during the climax at the stadium that Date was like talking to like Mizuki and he was like, "You can't die." Like BB, you know, no, it was BB couldn't die, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Date's talking to BB and like, "Oh yeah, well you can't die for like Mizuki's sake." And I'm like, did they have that much of a connection aside from the fact that they were basically clones of each other?
Hmm. Good question.
So I don't know if there's like some kind of connection between uh, the originals and their clones, but it would explain why Date and Ryuki are so close as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Uh. Yeah, that's sort of the same question, I guess, that the first game leaves you with. It's like, what's going on with Mizuki? Why is she so powerful? Um, it's sort of explained here. But yeah, in terms of this new character Ryuki, his brother dying,
Hmm.
yeah, his sort of coming out of nowhere. Mm, yeah, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. He's not powered the same way Date is powered, though. Right, Super Saiyan wise, he
Yeah. Well.
seems very chaste,
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
mysterious.
I think that's about all I have to say, at least for now.
Okay,
I have some thoughts after you get to um, the last. You enter the nil number. Um, there's not a whole lot to discuss on that, but I think next week we should meet up and just kind of again, just kind of like discuss everything and more of our final thoughts, our final thoughts.
big sis.
Yes, exactly. I'll
Okay.
think if there's like anything else I missed. I'm gonna write down like a list of questions.
Yeah, I'll try to read up on the game a little bit now that I've finished it and see what some of the discourse is surrounding it, some of the theories out there and all that. So now that it's safe to do so.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's the that I was so afraid to look up puzzles because I knew
Hmm.
like I was so fearful of getting spoilers.
But now it's safe.
Yes, now it is. Well, you have to enter the nil number before you do that.
Good. All right. Will
So,
do.
all right, well, I think that's it for here. And I guess we will talk next week.
Sounds good.
All right,
See ya.
see ya. Where is